Wait! Wait! This can't be! No! No! This can't be! Wait! Wait! No, no. No. Hey! No, no, no! Wait! Wait!
A crowdfunded spiritual successor to Clock Tower name, Nightcry is anything but. It's Mega Discount Clock Tower, a Wish.com version of Clock Tower at Home, Dollar Store Clock Tower, my initial name for the video before I realized someone else already used it. There is quality talent behind the scenes here. The director of the first two Clock Tower returns, along with other notable names in the industry. But as we've seen with many crowdfunded titles, that's no guarantee for success. Nightcry is a great example. There are moments where you can see something decent buried amongst the bizarre nonsensical. They were working with a shoestring budget and time frame. The end result is a tossed-together spiritual successor with much to offer, and not in a good way. There are several puzzling, bizarre design decisions. Plot threads dropped on a whim. It's not quite a so bad it's good kind of game, although it does flirt with that at times. But I can't recall the last time a game made me feel so gobsmacked while playing. Let's take a look at why. Nightcry takes place on a luxurious cruise liner, the Oceanus. We kick off with our first playable character, Monica, a young woman, wearing a low-cut dress and hair with a mind of its own. Stepping up for some air from a party, she comes across a clerk who is cutting something up. He has quite the wound on the back of his neck. Check out those walking and running animations. Even with a dress like that, heels and drunk, who moves like this? She looks like she needs to go pee. Must be all the booze and the game's low budget. It adds a goofy charm to the game, more in a so bad it's good kind of way. I love it for all the wrong reasons. These awkward animations carry over to our other playable characters, Leonard and Rooney. Look at this hunch that Rooney has going on. Even Quasimodo would be wincing at this posture. Like the Clock Tower titles before 3, Nightcry uses a point-and-click interface. Yes, what you're seeing is how it plays. It uses the default Windows mouse cursor. In footage of earlier builds, it did have a unique cursor. With video capturing, I could disable this cursor, but I left it in to give you an idea of what the Nightcry experience is like. I would try to keep it off the screen when possible. It's one of the many elements that makes Nightcry feel tossed together. Monica, seeking out her friend Harry, runs into Vigo, the owner of the ship. He has an artificial eye. Keep that in mind for later. Heading to a lower level, we come across an old lady whispering in the elevator. Near the vending machines, Monica finds Harry. There's much to note about Harry. One, of course, is that goofy outfit of his. But most notable is his character model. Yes, this looks to be the same model as Dante, or El Donte, replacing the A with an O from the 2013 Ninja Theory Devil May Cry. This isn't the only other place this Donte model has appeared. He made an appearance in a Vietnamese dental video. How did Nudemaker, the studio behind Nightcry, get access to this model? Well, speculation is that Capcom sold off the assets due to the low sales of the 2013 Devil May Cry. Per Nudemaker's website, they have done contract work for Capcom. This could have given them the chance to obtain the character model. It's a mystery, and to be honest, I prefer it that way. God only knows about the Vietnamese dental video. What also makes this Dante model even more noble is his usage. He serves as the game's first death, and what a way to go.
Don't get yourself worked up now. Come on, I'll buy you a drink.
What? You think a soda will get you on my good side?
Hey, you're thirsty, right? Here we go. What the?
What is it now?
Well, something's grabbing my hand.
What?
I said something inside here grabbing my hand.
Oh, Harry, the Gregory Peck Act is a bit outdated, don't you think?
I'm serious!
I like to think they used his model to give him a gruesome death. A middle finger to Ninja Theory in what they did with the character. Very cathartic. While Nightcry has a large pile of shortcomings, this is one of the few bright spots. I like to think it's intentional instead of a giant coincidence. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure which one's funnier. Throughout Nightcry, the Scissor Walker will pursue us. Her design comes from Masahiro Ito, best known for his work on Silent Hill monster designs. Game director Hifumi Komo told Ito to design what he wanted. Ito designed the Scissor Walker in a way to appeal to Clock Tower fans of old. The concept art is great, although the game's presentation doesn't do much justice with its character model. The sound design is well done. The shearing of the scissors and the cries of a baby mixed in add to the unease. While pursued by the Scissor Walker, the camera perspective changes to behind the player. We can now sprint, although that burns our stamina in short order. Wouldn't this be easier without the high heels on Monica? Lower stamina increases the chances of falling over, which will take some time to get back up. You can look back while running with the Scissor Walker in pursuit. If the Scissor Walker does catch you, there is a QTE to escape. If your stamina is too low, death is probable. You have a few options. One is to hide and wait for her to pass. With certain hiding spots, there will be a short minigame to hold our breath. Although don't try hiding in a dryer. Granted, of all the places you could hide, why there? Still, I like they included such a silly spot for a unique game over. We can use various items in the environment, like pepper spray or a fire extinguisher to send her fleeing. One amusing highlight is making use of a trash bin while playing as Rooney. There are some amusing deaths that can occur throughout Nightcry. Chatting with one of the staff, a food cart comes tumbling our way. While we can dodge, he won't. How is this enough to kill him? Or death can find us with a dart to the head. There's one odd duck death involving a distress radio. There are several radio channels. Calling one channel causes us to die for reasons unknown. Why? Well, that's the name of the game with Nightcry. One major difference compared to the Clock Tower of old is the appearance of our pursuer. There are no random encounters. Interacting with certain objects in the environment will begin a chase. Some along the critical path, some you could avoid outright. This does take away from the tension once you know this fact. One core element of Nightcry's gameplay is using a phone. Like everything else in Nightcry, it's undercooked in what it offers. We don't start off with a phone as Monica. We take one off a dead passenger. We have to charge it first. Check out that charging speed. There are charges throughout. Thing is, they're not necessary. You can use them to save, although Nightcry uses checkpoints. Nothing too egregious in how far apart they can be. You can use the phone as a light source. At first, with how fast the phone charged, I thought phones would die in short order. You'd have to be aware of your charge and where the nearest charger was. That was never the case. It could have been a source of tension, but with how much Nightcry drops the ball, I'm sure it would have made for a more frustrating experience. And boy is Nightcry frustrating. On the phone is a social media app, Snap and Post. An interesting idea that could have been an interesting mechanic. It does show promise in the early game, like trying to find the code for someone's suitcase. The answer is the owner's birthday, which you could find on the app. Good thing he used his birthday as the password. Granted, I found a study that said around 60% of people use birthdays or names in their passwords. There are a couple of cases of where your character can post a message on the app. One that sets you down a separate ending path if you forego posting. Else, there's not much to do with Snap and Post. It could have been a great way to flesh out the characters around us. See what's been happening on the ship. Get a better feel of their personalities. Instead, it serves as a place to put Kickstarter backers. I hate when Kickstarters do this. It takes me out of the game. This isn't the only case of immersion-breaking Kickstarter moments. There were a few character models that look out of place. These were Kickstarter tier awards. But hey, at least there were no e-celebs present. The phone gets a bit more mileage with regards to clearing obstacles. There's one bit as Leonard where we need to make our way past guards. To distract them, we find someone's phone, their contact information, and call it to cause a distraction. There's one stretch as Rooney where we need to call a phone to find where Monica is hiding. On the Kickstarter page, they did mention that calling someone's phone could alert the scissor walker. This never made it into the game. There could have been interesting possibilities with this feature, like causing the scissor walker to find you in a random encounter instead of a scripted one, or if you called someone at the wrong time, the scissor walker could get them. Whatever ideas they had with the phone, the end result is bare bones. Nightcry's main frustrations arise from its progression, and how easy it is to screw yourself over. One major contributor comes from pixel hunting. It can be a real guessing game with what we could interact with in the environment. Some objects will be obvious, some will blend in with the environment. Nightcry does suffer from readability issues that plague many modern games. I'd be waving my cursor all over the place to make sure I didn't miss anything. There are several cases where you could miss an item that will screw you over. I'm talking items you missed hours back. Like this ring you could find in a vending machine as Monica. If you don't pick it up, Nightcry screws you of a good ending later down the road. Or if you miss these gloves at the beginning of Leonard's section. Miss these and you'll die at the end of his section. One other archaic element that can screw you is through environment interactions. Some will repeat the same information with further clicks. Some you need to click through several times to find more info or pick up an item. Same case goes for talking with characters. There was one section as Rooney with a room full of characters. I talk with them all, exhaust their dialogue. I gain an item and contact information of other passengers. Exploring the ship, I end up hitting a roadblock. After aimless wandering, I look at a guide for a hint forward. Well, it turns out after talking with one character and exhausting all dialogue, I can now talk to the other characters who will now give me a key. Why didn't they give me the key in the first place? It's little annoyances like these we'll find sprinkled throughout Nightcry. Now, this kind of archaic design isn't new to the Clock Tower series. If you've had the misfortune of playing Clock Tower Ghost Head, you know what I'm talking about. In Ghost Head, there are cases where missing an item or environmental interactions come back to bite you in the ass hours later, ones without rhyme or reason to their logic. To note, the director of Nightcry had nothing to do with Clock Tower Ghost Head. He only directed the first two Clock Tower games. But you wouldn't guess that playing Nightcry. It's as if he looked at Clock Tower Ghost Head and used that as a template. Yes, the first two Clock Tower games could screw you over, but that was more punishing the player for not paying attention. I'm all for games punishing the player with regards to your actions. One of the issues with modern gaming is treating the player with kids' gloves, but Nightcry is on the other side of the spectrum. I'll walk through some of these cases in a bit. Several of them, like Clock Tower Ghost Head, had no rhyme or reason why they occurred. There's no justification why they led to an early ending and game over. Some are quick follow-ups, others can be a result of failed actions from hours before. Now, Nightcry does have a system to address this, that being the flowchart. As you progress and pass checkpoints, you can go back to the main menu and see your choices. You could catch that you missed a key item now and can go back to find it. It does give you some warning if you're heading for an early end. With checkpoint placement, you can course correct this in short time. You could also skip through dialogue, so if you do need to replay a section, you could do so quickly. I did forego using the flowchart for some time. I did make it through a good portion of the game before a previous mistake caused an early end. Despite this early end, I am glad I did keep away from looking at the flowchart at first. This allowed me to get the true Nightcry experience. All the good and bad that came along with it. Most of it bad. Let's go through some of the major beats and frustrations found within Nightcry. There's nothing too bad in Monica's section beyond missing the ring. There was a bit where I seem to have exhausted all possibilities. There are stairs blocked by velvet rope that she won't go up. That is until you find a brochure that shows a layout of the ship. There is an exit at the top of the stairs. Well, geez, I could figure that out myself had I been able to go up there. Well, if they're trying to replicate the odd logic of point-and-click games of old, they've done so here. With that, we switch over to Leonard. He is a professor. Monica is one of his students. With a couple of staff members of the Oceanus, we head to a nearby island. I would have preferred if Nightcry stuck to the one location with this ship. An isolated cruise ship makes for a quality horror setting. Resident Evil Revelations did a great job with it. Leonard's stretch on the island is longer than Monica's. This section is where the low budget and rush development begins to rear its ugly head. There are people in masks that we'll need to avoid through the world's shortest stealth section. There are some eerie sights to find on the island, like this group of people trapped down in a hole. Who are they? Why are they down there? No answer given. As a professor of anthropology, Leonard does give some insight into what we come across. Even then, several of these moments get little explanation and no follow-up. There is one decent little puzzle where we need to distract a guard to progress further. Use a baseball to hit a gong from a distance to distract them to pass by. Very much in the case of old point-and-click puzzle logic, and a good showing of it. We're able to find a mask and walk amongst the others. There are some eerie moments, like a gathering around a bonfire with hung passengers over the flames. In a cabin, we can find another false eye. Looks like the ship owner Vigo has involvement in all this. In the depths of the island, Leonard finds a silhouette that looks to be the Oceanus. This group looks like it wants to perform a ritual on the ship. In a sarcophagus, Leonard finds a man named Jerome that he knows. Someone we haven't met yet. There are strange marks on his back. He's still alive. With Jerome in tow, we head back to the ship to stop what's about to happen. On the way over, a masked one gets a drop on Leonard.
We have no idea how many of them are on the ship. We'll have to eliminate... What was that explosion? Hey! Get back to the ship as soon as...
We return to the ship, going further back in the timeline to play as Rooney Simpson. She's one of Leonard's students. He is a distant relative of hers, and has lived with him for some time. We start her section during the party, the one Monica left at the beginning of her stretch. I love this track that plays during the party. If the "your call is on hold" music was more like this when you called customer service, I'd have more patience while waiting. One person we could talk to is Jerome, the conductor, the one Leonard finds on the island later on. All I could see is Mark from the room with his character model. As Rooney, let's go get some fresh air. Let's take a look at the ocean with this one prompt. Or so I thought.
The ocean at night seems to suck you in, don't you think, Rooney? Don't you think it would feel so nice to be sucked into the ocean? It's probably comfortable in the ocean, like a soft bed. It's a bit salty, so you should bring some candy. I like lemon and fruit punch flavored candy. It's sparkly and beautiful. It's like 1 billion stars are at the ocean floor. You're lucky. The sparkles are all yours. And you're gonna become a sparkle too. Rooney, can you wait for me down there? You can't take all the candy though. You should get some rest in the soft and comfy ocean.
Hey! You alright? You were about to fall into the ocean.
Oh.
To say this took me by surprise is an understatement. Rooney has several past traumas that she deals with. Her parents divorced with implications of emotional abuse. She sees a girl, Connie, telling her to end it all on the regular. Someone from her past, spirit haunting her, suggesting Rooney killed someone. And you know what makes this worse for Rooney? How the other students treat her. They refer to her as the Death Wish Diva. Others tell her to go throw her life away once the Scissor Walker emerges, rubbing salt into the wounds of her depressive tendencies. Even Maria, another professor like Leonard, chastises her about her struggles. Only Leonard and Jerome are kind and compassionate to her. Jerome bonds with her over similar dark thoughts. Forget the Scissor Walker, these mean girls are the true monsters of Nightcry. You think the way they chastise her, they'd be middle school or high school bullies. But no, these are university students in their early to mid-20s. You think they'd be over that by then. And Maria, you're a professor. What's your problem with Rooney? I had no sympathy for her when the Scissor Walker killed her. Rooney's section is by far the largest, with most of the cruise ship accessible. It's also where the game is at its best, where the atmosphere picks up, and evokes that clock tower feel of old at various moments. The music does a great job as well. They get a lot of mileage out of this one droning note. Masahiro Ida wasn't the only Konami alumni that got on board for Nightcry. Nobuku Toda, who did work on the Metal Gear series from Snake Eater up until Peace Walker, composed most of the tracks. Michiru Yamane, best known for her work on the Castlevania series, also contributed. We'll find Monica locked up in a container. While she does chastise Rooney like the others, she is kinder to her, and we learn about her plan to find Mr. Rich and Gorgeous. She seeks riches not only for herself, but her younger brothers, ones she raises herself. From here on in is where Nightcry's most infuriating dead ends arise. We run into Eric, the one Monica first talked to with the weird mark on his neck. Rooney gets a call from Kelly telling us not to trust Eric. Eric gives us antibiotics to help Monica with her wounds, and tells us to take them as well. We can't examine this item. We can't check if there's anything wrong with this medication. So listening to what Kelly told Rooney, I'm going to ignore Eric's advice. Progressing a bit forward, something happens to Rooney out of the blue.
Oh, my head. It's killing me. I was waiting. You finally made it here, Rooney. Now, we can play together. Forever.
Now, if you do take this medication, we're fine and can progress forward. But why? What happened in this room? What were we infected by? As far as I know, there's no explanation for this. There's no note that we could find or something to examine that tells us otherwise. It's a case of trial and error. Wait, now Kelly told us not to trust him. Did she go out of her way to do this? Granted, how did she know we could possibly run into him and give us this medication? With that, Eric more or less disappears from the game, depending on one ending. I have so many questions, and Nightcry provides so few answers. And not in a good way. So taking what Eric gave us, we can continue forward and find Leonard hooked up to a machine.
Professor!
Help me.
Oh my god, what a strong, disturbing visual. It's a game highlight. Leonard is begging for death, but Rooney won't do it. It's unfortunate the game breaks the tension here with some poor translation. They meant to say there's no way, instead we get there's way. It's a moment that summarizes Nightcry in a nutshell. Unable to shut down the machine, we continue and face an early end not long after. What did I do wrong here? Well, let's take a look at the flowchart. During Leonard's section, there was a memoirs I didn't read. Remember earlier where I mentioned you want to exhaust all dialogue with what you can interact with? I didn't do so for these books on a bookshelf. What information do we gain from this? Some vague words of a madman. So now I have to start from Rooney's section again and make my way back to the room with Leonard. By reading this memoir, Rooney now has the strength to shut off the machine. Why? I have zero clue. It's not like Rooney read the memoirs herself. Leonard doesn't say anything different to Rooney while hooked up to the machine. He doesn't impart any information as a result that gives Rooney the courage to shut off his life support. There's no justification beyond the game checking if you've done so. This is what makes Nightcry so frustrating and fascinating. Most of these dead ends have no rhyme or reason to them. Shutting off Leonard's life support, Connie makes another appearance. We now get the revelation that Rooney had involvement in Connie's death many years ago. While Connie says Rooney shoved her out of the boat, causing her death, that wasn't the case.
Shut up, Connie! Huh? I remember what really happened that day. We were on a boat. I was reaching to grab your hat because the wind had blown it into the lake. What? What? But you tried to push me in from behind. No, that's a lie. You're lying. But it was you who fell in, and you got caught in the boat's propeller. That's what really happened. Lies, 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 lies! You're twisting the story to make yourself look good! Ah! Yeah! No, that's what you've been doing, Connie. You were always mean to me. I guess that didn't change even after you died. But I don't intend to beg for your forgiveness. I'm going to go on with my life.
I could see what they're going for here, but it falls flat. But hey, at least the game gives some explanation for something. Then we get one of the game's funniest, most random moments. What was that all about? Well, one of the Kickstarter backer tiers was to have their screams recorded and placed in Nightcry. I'm guessing this was them. On a computer, we could find someone using machine translation to decipher a diary from Vigo. Fitting as the game's translation feels the same way. Vigo had a daughter, Yolanda. It's implied he had an incestuous child with her. The child is likely Jerome. Through what we could piece together, Yolanda is likely the Scissor Walker. I mean this in a way where the game leaves some ambiguity up in the air, not a case of where it felt like something never made it into the game, like so many other cases do here. It's here where if you don't have the wedding ring you found during Monica's stretch, you can hit a dead end. Why does Rooney act like she hasn't met Vigo? We talked with him earlier. Rooney gets sprayed by this gas, resulting in the same ending as with the antibiotics. Well, at least here there's some more justification. I guess this gas turns you into a zombie-like individual? Sure, why not? Of course, while you can miss the ring as Monica, you still have to obtain it as Rooney. If you didn't exhaust the dialogue with Monica in the shipping container, Monica won't give the ring to Rooney. You have to find the woman to give the ring to. At first, she was in the room with others like Kelly and Vigo, but returning with the ring, she's not there. She's hiding in a nearby clothing store behind a curtain. Unless I missed something, there's no indication she's hiding there. I had to look at a guide for this one. The ring we give her is the ring of her now dead husband. So moving forward, how does this impact the game? Well, we can now progress towards the best ending. Does this woman show up again? Nope. There's a bit later on where Monica saves Rooney from Vigo. This could have been a moment where the woman instead saves Rooney, grateful for what she's done for her. Else we get a game over. That at least would have some justification. But no, it's another case of the game checking if you've done a task so you can continue. Returning to the party room, we find the many guests dead, strung up like puppets. It's a pretty gruesome, eerie visual. Or at least it would be with something with a bit more production value. We run into Vigo, who now has voice lines. Yep, that's the OG Barry Burton providing the voice.
That's right. I'm Vigo Barantsov, the owner of this ship. We met in the cargo hold, Rooney. A belated greeting. Welcome to the Oceanus. I hope you enjoy your cruise with us to our eternal paradise.
Jerome grabs Rooney from behind, but Monica comes in to save the day in a nice moment. As flawed and nonsensical as Nightcry can be, I did enjoy Monica and Rooney as characters.
You okay, Rooney?
Monica, what are you doing here?
I told you I would be right behind you.
Jerome?
Forget about him. It doesn't matter how much of a big shot celebrity he is if he's lost his mind.
With Vigo sending the scissor walker after us, we have one final possible action. A couple of rooms back, we can take an artificial eye from a safe, one like Vigo's. With the scissor walker approaching, what choices do we have? Well, we can use this eye on herself. Wonder what that does.
Rooney, you gonna let them kill you? You still haven't let go of your death wish?
You're right. Sorry, Monica. I'm gonna survive. No matter what it takes. No matter the cost.
Rooney?
Where in God's green earth did Rooney get this idea? Did she think, hey, Vigo has a fake eye, is that what's allowing him to control the scissor walker? I mean, if there was a note that at least hinted at this, sure. Even a couple lines would have been more than enough. But no, she goes right for ripping out her own eye and placing this one in. And good thing she does, because it allows her to turn the tide on Vigo. The scissor walker kills Vigo with some hammy voice acting, the one I started the video with.
No, wait. No. No. Wait. No. Wait.
This results in the best ending, with Monica and Rooney rescued. Well, Nightcry is quite the experience, and not in a good way. Fitting that you have a character, Jerome, bearing a strong resemblance to Mark from The Room. It's not so bad it's good territory, but it does flirt with it at points. It has flashes of quality, but that's buried amongst the puzzling and nonsensical. What's the point of the island, this cult, what are they planning? You get bits and pieces, but in a way that's less vague and more about running out of development time. The Kickstarter did mention that we would have a chapter where we play as Jerome. I'm sure we've gotten more information to piece things together. I've made mention of the Kickstarter throughout, so let's now dive into the shenanigans there. Nightcry is another one of those troubled Kickstarter stories. I'm going to compare it to two other Kickstarters, ones that were successful Japanese spiritual successors. At least successful from a monetary standpoint. One delivered a product that satisfied most customers, the other one not so much. These Kickstarters are Bloodstained Ritual of the Night and Mighty No. 9. Nightcry launched its Kickstarter in January of 2015. Through about 2,400 backers, it surpassed its $300,000 goal with about $314,000. Nightcry also used Campfire, a Japanese crowdfunding platform. They raised about 4.2 million yen with a 3 million yen goal. This is around 35,000 American dollars at the time of exchange rates in early 2015. Mighty No. 9 launched its Kickstarter in September of 2013. Through about 67,000 backers, it smashed its $900,000 goal with about $3.8 million raised, over 4 times its goal. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night launched its Kickstarter in May of 2015. Through about 65,000 backers, it smashed its $500,000 goal with $5.5 million. Over 10 times its goal. Comparing budgets, Nightcry raised about 8% of what Mighty No. 9 raised. It raised about 6% of what Bloodstained raised. From Kickstarter launch to release, Nightcry came out in a little over a year. The PC version released in March of 2016. Mighty No. 9 would release almost 3 years later after its Kickstarter launch in June of 2016. The less said about it, the better.
Stuff that'll make you faster and stronger and make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Bloodstained would release a little over 4 years after its Kickstarter launch in June of 2019. It was both a critical and commercial success. Nightcry was working with a fraction of the budget and timelines that those two Kickstarters had. I do want to note some key differences here with Nightcry. They weren't starting from scratch. In fact, there were no initial plans for a Kickstarter. The initial plan was released for the PlayStation Vita, iPhone, and Android devices. Feedback from fans asking for a PC version was the reason for the Kickstarter. This does help explain the shorter turnaround from Kickstarter release until launch beyond the budget. Funny to note that the Vita version came out in early 2019. From what I understand, it performs even worse than the PC version, and that mobile version never came out. All that talent mentioned earlier, they were already on board even before the Kickstarter. Listed as a co-creator along with Hifumi Kono is film director Takashi Shimizu, best known for his work on Ju-on the Grudge. Before the Kickstarter release, there was a 10-minute short film he directed for Nightcry. Some hammy acting aside, it's decent and helps give more insight into Scissor Walker.
Right there. Right here. Hey, get it together already. If you're gonna say something, just say it. Over there. You know, you're starting to sound just like your father. I don't want you to be like him.
Before the Kickstarter, Nightcry was self-funded with its studio Nudemaker and some loans. As a company, Nudemaker has been around since late 2002, Hifumi Kono as its CEO and president. They have worked as contractors for studios like Capcom, Sega, Konami, and Platinum Games. They're a small company. No doubt they ran out of money and had to put out what they had. I'd like to think if they had a larger budget and longer time frame, they could put something out there that was more cohesive. There is a decent game buried in there somewhere. Of course, larger backing would have resulted with increased scope and stretch goals. 400k would have added in another playable character, which I'm guessing would have been Jerome. Even then, it might have been another character beyond him. 450k and 550k raised would have led to releases on PlayStation and Xbox respectively. Mighty No. 9 had several issues in its production, with one of them going overboard with stretch goals leading to scope creep. So even then, a larger budget is no guarantee. As a studio that does contract work, I'm guessing Nudemaker had to cut their losses, put the game out, and move on to contract work to stay afloat. I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I don't think there was an intention to scam the audience. It was an earnest try, a failed one, but a try nonetheless. That's always a possibility with crowdfunded projects. The YouTuber Tango Mushi went more into the details of the backers behind Nightcry, what some of their experiences were like with the end product, and backer rewards. I'd recommend checking out that video if you want to learn more on that front. Clock Tower has always been a niche franchise, most notable in how much Nightcry raised compared to the spiritual successors of Castlevania and Mega Man. So if you're looking for a spiritual successor to Clock Tower, go play Haunting Ground. Capcom nailed it all the way back in the mid-2000s. While I haven't played the series myself, for a more modern take, I've heard the remothered series does a good job with the Clock Tower formula. Or go play the old titles again, especially the first Clock Tower. As mentioned earlier, it's fitting that one character model looks like a character from the movie The Room. A movie so bad, so puzzling that it becomes amazing. Nightcry isn't quite to that level, but there are moments where that emerges. There are also moments where you could see something decent buried amongst the nonsensical. But it's another one of those Kickstarters that bit off more than they could chew, and delivered a disappointing product. Bringing about the creators of old for a spiritual successor tends to generate more misses than hits in a crowdfunded world. Nightcry is one of the more notable examples. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so, subscribe, like, comment. If you'd like to support the channel further, do consider becoming a patron member or YouTube member. You'll get access to videos earlier, get periodic updates, and get featured in the forthcoming credits.
Professor.
Rooney, it's horrifying. The moment becomes eternity. Good heavens! This is the curse of being killed by...